Hello, Jess Clair here, coming to you live. I'm just going to put this in the comments. I need to prove my belief. I really want to explore this tonight. So if you are jumping on, this is about exploring it together. And I'm very curious about this. So if you are there, I can't see anyone who is jumping on, but if you do say hello and you are watching this and you want to engage in this conversation, this is about exploring it together. Personally, I've been very impacted lately by some of the conduct that's been happening online, some of the things that have been saying, not saying, some of the things that posts that have been going out, but even the way in which we are treating each other. And the way in which I see that we're all out to prove our point. We're all out to prove something. Hello, Robert. And I even had a look at my own stuff around this, right? And how much I want to prove my beliefs are true. And I want to explore that tonight. So if you are jumping on, and hey, Tristan. Oh, hello, Tristan. I caught your attention. Hello, Chanel. I want to explore this with you guys tonight. And I want to assert, so if you are jumping on, please do say hello. But I want to assert that there is a human belief that maybe we inherently all have, that if you don't agree, then you're ignorant. And I, of course, if I'm going to come on and assert this myself, I have to, of course, make that determination myself. Hey, Gail. And have a look at my own behavior. And maybe, when I had a look at this, I looked deep down at, was I thinking the same thing? Because I'm noticing it all around, right? Hey, Gail, I don't know who that is, but hello. I'm only on this because my internet connection is so terrible at the moment. It's getting fixed this Thursday. So please engage. And I want to ask you, do you think that you or others who you don't agree with their beliefs or they don't agree with your beliefs, and do you stand in, just blow them off, they're just ignorant? Chanel, it's so good to see your face, love. I was told I was uneducated the other day because I had a different perspective than others. I know, right? And what is that like? Here you are, just a person that views the world how you view. You've been through what you've been through. And just because you may not hold someone else's perspective, you get called ignorant, uneducated. What is it? What is it to be educated? Let's have a look at that. And I'd like you to engage in this. I know there's a lot of people watching this, but I want to assure you that I'm not here to say that your answers or whatever you say is uneducated. I am absolutely not here. I'm not going to call this out and then be the person that turns around and does that. I would like to call myself out firstly. And I have my strong beliefs. I think things should be a particular way. And I know that I do this. And I wipe people off as ignorant. And I notice my own humanity and I interrupt it. And I say to myself, okay, how about I get curious? And that's what this whole show is about. Right. So I'm going to bring up something that might be fairly, activating. I'm going to bring up something, and I want to talk about what's happening with Trump and Biden. I think this is a very good example of something, and that's what I want to explore. Okay. Thank you, Tristan. In my opinion, that is to be educated, is to take a look at the water around. It's to take a look at the water around and be able to explain well with unbias. Okay. So that's to be educated for you. Okay. Hey, Scotty, good to see you. I get that, right? So I just want to ask another question about that. Do you think people that are not looking around, or that we perceive and not looking around, and not able to explain things well, and may have a bias, are ignorant. Because in my view, and this is really what I want to bring up, I'm just going to throw something out here because I'm going to like fully throw it into the gauntlet, right? Trump. I am absolutely not having a discussion on politics here. I'm not telling you whether you should or shouldn't like Trump or Biden, or, I mean, the fact that we even care so much about American politics does my head in. And that's my view. And you can call me ignorant or whatever. I'm just going to turn off WhatsApp because that's annoying me. So I'm going to throw out there, though, is it just because Trump is not polished and not perfect that people can't like see his perspective? I mean, can anyone stop and see his perspective? Or is because there's just so much charge around this, so much that, even me saying that, I have a concern. I have this concern now that even me saying Trump, the word Trump, I have this fear that all these people are going to go, he did this and he did this and he did this. And so it's like, we can't even talk about this, right? So I'm like, well, has anyone explored his view of the world? Has anyone who hates him actually taken a look at why he's acting like this? I'm curious about this. I'm really curious. Is it because he's, I personally don't think he does a really great job of explaining himself sometimes. But I went and I was like, I don't like this guy at all. But that made me want to know him better. Because when someone really irritates me, I use that as an opportunity to get to know them better, right? So I'm curious, like, does someone that really, you just wipe them off and call them ignorant and then go tell everyone, hey, this guy, he's such an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Or do you actually check out and validate some of his, like, check out and go, does he have some genuine concerns? Right? Does he? Does anyone check that out? Or do people just like write him off? And look, Trump is a really public example, right? But have a look. I looked in my own life and I'm like, in my family, if someone doesn't articulate things well, if someone doesn't have an educated discussion, if someone doesn't look polished and professional and educated, then they're not listened to. I'm calling that out as BS, and actually one of the biggest problems with society. That just because of how someone looks, sounds, and may appear, they're either worth or not worth being listened to. Okay, so I'm happy for anyone to say anything about that. I know this is a big call. I know. I'm all about exploring this topic, finding ways to talk about it. I'm not saying I am the be and end all here. I'm just curious about that, right? So I just want to have a look at some of these comments here. Always doing my best to understand others, absolutely. Look in the mirror for myself, great. Every opinion is normally based on personal experience, emotional reaction to that experience, absolutely. I was told I was vile and uneducated. Oh, that's charming. I was kicked out of a group for having a different viewpoint and showing my heart. I get that, right? And so this is how, just on this chat, this is how people are being treated in my circles. So we don't even have to look at Trump and Biden. I mean, they're just a public, lit up display of what's actually happening in our own circles. This is not okay with me. And I want to have a look at how we get out of this trap, because I'm asserting, and I know you're probably not going to like this, and I love all you people and you're all great people, but it's like, including myself, we've got to have a look. We're all doing this to each other. And it's so not okay. Just on here, Chanel, you've been treated that way. And I'm not sure who that is, but, you've been told that. Tristan, I know you well. I'm sure you've been told particular things. In fact, I was around you once when you were told some things about who you are just because you had a different view. And then you have a look here. I watch Fox Business because they reveal real statistics. So you're looking for it, right? We're looking for how we can get the facts here, how we can get some real stats about his victory, regardless of his personality. So we're like, how do we cut through this personality chase, right? Good businessman, not a politician, potentially. But I'm curious, have you ever checked out the validity of some of the arguments he has? Because that's where I had to like cringe through it. But I wanted to look in reality, not in personality, as you put there, Chanel. I think that look in reality, not personality, right? I'm far from polished. You know, I don't have an educated view on all this stuff. I'm just curious about how human beings treat each other, right? I did a video about this. Yeah, perfection versus protection. Okay. Scotty, people and their ideas are a product of environments they live in, grew up in, regardless of whether those environments are good or bad. Absolutely. So we know this, right? We do know this. How do we begin to interact with each other from that place of compassion? Despite if we grind on each other's goats, like grind, like Trump was grinding on me, but I still was like, okay, how do I listen to him? How do I listen to what he's saying? Right? How do I listen? Behind his personality, behind the way he goes about things, some of the things he says, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, you know? But how do I look behind that? I've given up this idea that just because someone's a politician, that they're not human. They are. He is someone with thoughts, feelings, opinions, all of it. And anyone who gets reactivated or activated by that is like, he's just human. He's no different to you and me. He's a human with a lot of money. But he's no different, right? I'm curious about this. You know, okay, so Scotty, you've experienced sexism. You try to heal your misguided masculinity. You know, so we're all experiencing this, right? Absolutely, Chanel. And that's what I'm asserting. I'm really asserting that we are all having to own our own areas where we are so nasty to each other. And it's not just Trump and Biden. I mean, that was just a great little public display of how we all do it to each other. You know, I want to talk about that we all have nasty. I know this is not an easy conversation to have because we all want to think we're not. I'm not saying we are nasty. I'm saying we all have it. We all have it right there waiting when someone comes along and does something to just like go, you know, express it. And it's our ability potentially to go, I'm not doing that. It's to recognize it. I mean, I have it. There's sometimes I just want to tell people to just shut up and listen, right? But why would I do that? Because that would be completely dishonoring the person that I'm with. And I did have to do quite a bit of healing to not engage with that part of who I was. You know, we all, and we have names for this stuff, right? Like you said, we all have our shadow side. And we all have nasties, right? And I also think that we all have a whole bucket load of compassion that maybe we don't tap into as much, you know. So let's have a look. Luna, whatever the case, whether it's a person or social media, it's hard to determine the truth anymore as we no longer have it. That's right. There is no truth. I want you to consider truth doesn't even exist. Oh, that's going to make people's minds. I know that's going to create a whole new conversation, but I just don't believe it does. It just doesn't. And the search for it is just futile. Futile? Okay. See, I'm not polished. I said futile, right? The search for it, it's ridiculous, right? So why do we keep doing this? And I know this is crazy to go on here and say, you know, here I have this amazing audience, and I'm actually suggesting that all of us have this nasty side, right? I want people to make peace with it. Because the moment you make peace with it is the moment that you no longer have to engage with it. You know, the moment you own that this person that is you don't want to be like, you're just like, you know, Thanks, Scotty. The moment that you realize the person that you're like, I need to protect myself from that person, it's like, well, you're part of that. You have the same traits. We have just as much Trump in us as we do Biden. We have our own impulsive, frustrated, banging, throwing our toys out of the pram moments. Are we making peace with those parts of who we are? Or do we continue to act like that and then go tell all our friends and gossip so that, we get some agreement on it so we feel better about ourselves, right? Let's have a look at what we got here. How do you look past someone who acts like a child? How do you show some respect for someone who's acting as Trump is? That is the $1 million question, Carly. I think that is such a good question. I would say this. You can't solve, and I say this to everyone who does my programs all the time, you can't solve a problem you don't give yourself. So, I'm curious what everyone else thinks, and I would say, give yourself the problem of giving compassion to someone who acts like Trump and see what you find out. See what you find out. Like, you actually have to go after it. Like, who would you have to be as someone to provide compassion, provide respect, and completely honor someone who may not be honoring you? We have to start. We have to give people space. I always tell the story about when I was 6 years ago, before I did any work, I was a corporate bully. I was going to work. I was trying to get ahead. I was very good at my job. I was finding, hello, Christy. I was finding ways in which I would do anything to get ahead. I would head up projects because I would find my way to charismatically and strategically get in with the bosses. And I would do that. And then anyone who disagreed with me once I got into those positions, I would undermine and cut out and find ways to get them taken out of projects. At one point, I got someone fired because of the way I manipulated a situation. And I had no remorse over it. I was a jerk, right? And I was the person that I'm talking about. I was that person. And there was this woman at work, and I'll never forget her, that was nothing but loving and compassionate to me. And she had no reason to be. I wasn't great with her. I was her boss. I wasn't great with her. But I found that no matter the way I was with her, she would be loving. Now, what was going on at home was, I've had my stuff happen in my family with sexual abuse. I felt as though I was being completely controlled and dominated by my partner at the time. I didn't have any power. I didn't feel like anyone listened to me. My mum had mental illness. All of that, I wasn't talking about that. All of that is being expressed out here into the workplace. It doesn't make it okay. I'm not saying it was okay, but it was what was actually going on was never, ever talked about. And talk to anyone about it, didn't do anything. But this woman, she was loving and compassionate to me. And one day she took an opportunity to say, are you going to complain and be like this for the rest of your life, or are you going to do something about it? And that moment shifted everything for me. Firstly, I had a safe space to talk to someone, but I also had someone be what I call a big, bold motherfucker with me, because no one really stood up to me like that. And I went and booked in that night into my very first personal development course, right? And my life was never the same after that. If that woman didn't take that time, I think of myself today and I think I would have been the same. I would have been still miserable, still causing havoc, still being rude to people. I needed to have someone give me the problem called, how do I solve this situation I'm in? Right? How do I? Am I just going to complain about it for the rest of my life, or am I going to do something about it? Right? And I'm forever grateful for that woman. Forever. And her name was Joy, which is quite telling, So I that's what I'd suggest. And I'd be curious to see what you guys have said. Let's have a look. Whatever you're triggered by, Trump or anyone else, that's a lesson. Hold space, dig deep until there's no more judgment. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm triggered by Oprah at the moment. Okay, we're going to get triggered by everyone, right? And really where I stand is we have no idea what's going on with other people. I mean, do you really know what's going on in your own family? Are you even sure what's going on with the people closest to you? Then how the freaking hell are we going to know what's really going on in politics? Like, really? Okay. I can't figure out what my mum's doing most days, or my dad, you know, or people in my life, or my kids. Like, but why do we think we have so much knowledge about what's going on in the world? Why? Because people post stuff on Facebook? And because mainstream media tells us to think this? No, we have no clue, and we never will. I'm just going on my rant now. I just feel it, right? But I just get to this place. It's like, why are we trying to convince everyone what to believe when no one has a freaking clue what to believe? Because there is no way of telling with everything that's happening all of the time. So what choice do we have? Get fascinated by yourself. You know, how about we start getting fascinated as we are with everyone else's lives? How about we get fascinated about our own stuff? How about we get fascinated why we get triggered? How about we get fascinated by all of that, right? Start getting fascinated. It's like a permission slip to become self-obsessed. You know, it is, and not only is it a permission slip to become self-obsessed, you actually learn so much about yourself when you start to begin to look authentically at why you are doing and what you are reacting to. You know, that's my experience anyway. I'd be curious to see what you guys have said. John, Robert, how we treat our opponents says a lot about our society, and the debate in the USA has become ugly. Expect others to hold a different opinion. Yeah, we have to learn. And we are, you know, I'm going to say it, like, we are super crap as a society, as a collective, at respecting others who hold different opinions. Like, terrible at it. It really gets to me. And so I just, you know what I do about that? I'm not here to preach it. I'm here to just acknowledge I'm going to continue to make sure and do the work of how I can be and become a greater and a more loving and compassionate human being with anyone, even the people that I hate or despise in terms of their behavior the most. You know? So, what have you got here, Scotty? Very funny. Okay. I don't see his personality at all. I see overall purpose of his position, regardless of semantics that really don't matter. Absolutely, right? Gave up my right to be right. Me too. That was my famous saying. Giving up my right to be right, even when I am. Have you guys ever considered you could give it up? Like, you just don't allow yourself to be right anymore. Like, is that confronting? It's freeing as fuck, actually. People go 1 + 1 = 7. You go, okay, I really get it. Thanks for sharing. Like, have you ever considered that's actually an opportunity? So what else have we got here? Manipulation is an expression of experience. Having to be creative and find ways to get what you need. Yeah, absolutely. Chanel, thank you. I used to be a raising narcissistic bitch. I made people cry at work. How things change, right? When you start to really look at your impact on the world. I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Everyone needs to be called on their shit. Stage 2, realizing that shit is often not your fault. Stage 3, loving yourself to someplace better. 100%. Oh, this is a great conversation. Nicole, this discussion reminds me of this quote I came across whilst doing. Unfortunately, I don't have the author. I went out into the world claiming to seek wisdom, but what I really sought were answers. And it is now perhaps my only conclusion that wisdom is the ability to know the difference. There is no generalized wisdom of kind of sort of wisdom that is alluded to. Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm just going to read this as well. Tristan, how a person judges another person is ultimately why they'll be judged by others. Absolutely. And look, I think that's something that we can, I mean, everyone's writing these comments here, and I really do want to get to all of it. But I just want to keep like pressing this home. Your access to having other people have compassion for you, your access, again, the moment I start preaching is when I start to go, I'm talking about not preaching. And then I start preaching. It's this irony. It's this paradox in life. It's like we hold beliefs. We do. We all hold beliefs. You can't resist them. We all have them. However, how do we move beyond the beliefs? So I'm like in this conversation with you, even noticing how much I have beliefs, but I want to move beyond my beliefs and actually be here with you guys exploring this, right? Love that, Chloe. I do too. What would life look like if we all gave up the right to be right? Or not, because, I'm starting to think it's so human. It's actually part of our survival mechanism to be right and to have to, I think we have to survive somehow. So we create these ideas of our beliefs and it keeps us safe. So I don't know that we get rid of it, but how do we kind of love that part of ourselves and move through it? So even then, I was like having a belief and I noticed it and I was like, I have to talk to you guys through it. I can't hold on to this belief and start being preachy as I'm talking about not being preachy. So how do we move through that? I think this is a problem worth solving. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. What do we got here? Focus on what we can control and what we do know is real and that it's our own energy that we portray. Absolutely. Someone up here said the 4 agreements too. Yes, absolutely. Man, I love those. I love those. Heal your own stuff to get super curious. I really do think if you're going to have a strategy, because I think the best strategy in life is to have no strategy. But if you're going to have a strategy, is absolutely curiosity. Curiosity over belief. And, that can sometimes look a bit funny when you're in the middle of a conversation, someone says something absurd and you're like, oh my God. Now I have to get curious because your brain will automatically go, this is BS, right? But it's noticing that BS, Amita, and going, haven't I asked a question about that? Why do you think that? Why do you think that? It might be something really ridiculous, right? But it's like, why do you think that? I've noticed you go past that and you ask the question, you really find out some interesting things about things and you really get connected to people at the same time. Oh, I like this. Acceptance and divine neutrality. Ooh, I like that. Absolutely. It's almost like owning, it is. It's like this, it's owning this duality that we exist in, that we're constantly going to be wanting to prove our belief, but knowing stepping outside of that is the thing that's going to have us come together. Or it's even knowing, like I know sometimes when I'm really frustrated and I can't listen to someone, that I say it, I don't hide it. I'm like, I'm really frustrated right now and I can't listen to what you have to say and it's not going to go well if anything else comes out of my mouth. Like, it's like owning that I'm in a place where I'm just going to be an asshole if I keep talking. Like, I don't think we always have to be compassionate. I think that there are moments when we can be compassionate and there's certain circumstances where we can absolutely move through it. But sometimes it's just about owning where you're at and owning that part and being real about where you are at. So you don't keep making the damage happen. Like I'm about how do we stop this impact on each other, right? I personally like a thing called the 5 whys. Why do I feel like this? Why is that? Why is that? And what is that? And why is that? Keep asking yourself till you find out the root cause. I really do think that too. So you get curious about your own self, right? Strategist. I'm a strategist too, Scotty. I mean, yeah, I think expressing it in the workplace is one thing. I think being really good at strategy for business is one thing. I do not think, and I thoroughly have tested this out, I think the more I try to strategize in relationships, the more I fail at them. So the only strategy that I've ever used in a relationship recently is just to not have one and just to say everything and just to share everything and not hold back and just go, this is me, all warts and all. And I really, I think there are times and places for that. I'm not saying do that with absolutely everyone, but ultimately the goal would be that we get to a place where we can be like that with all people, right? And what I noticed with the conversation the other day, I neutralized the charge by asking the question and saying I was confused, and they would explain, and let go of the need to be right. It was a big step. Beautiful. It is. It's moments, right, Chanel? It's not like you do it once, and it's not like you do it once and then suddenly sorted forever. You're like, okay, I provided someone compassion. I'll be compassionate forever. It's like, no, there will be people out there every day just poking, unintentionally getting poked. It's like practicing that. It's practicing noticing the charge, saying you're confused, ask them if they would explain. You know, one of my favorite phrases is, can you say a bit more about that? Not really sure what you mean. You know, getting curious. You know, oh, thank you, Chanel. You know, and I'm human. I lose my shit sometimes. I do. And this is probably another point you go to is I'm not like saying that I'm somehow, you know, I've got all the answers here. That's why we're exploring it, right? I'm just purely saying, and I'm asserting that we all are not owning potentially just the nasty side of our human being. And that maybe the owning of it allows us to go, feel it, feel the frustration, but move through it and ask questions like you said. And maybe if we don't do that, maybe there are moments when we don't. And maybe the biggest and most generous thing we can do is acknowledge that, is when you do calm down and you do think, geez, I probably shouldn't have said that. Instead of letting your brain spend its time, you know, justifying why it was okay for you to do it, why not spend your time when you notice your brain justify, well, it was okay that I did that because of this and that and that and that and that. How about you spend your time going, do you know what? I'm just going to acknowledge that I was a jerk. And give yourself some compassion for that too, because we're all human. Yeah, I was a jerk. You know, I've been trying this on with my kids, and I think it is really important that my kids know that I'm just human, and they get that sometimes I can yell at them and it's not really their fault. And it's got, well, I don't really believe in fault, but it's not really got anything to do with them. And I think owning that is probably one of the biggest, generous acts we can give other people, is when we own our own asshole. Hello, Courtney. Good to see you. We sure are. And anyone who says they're not are lying. Absolute liars. I assert that as a belief, but it's true. And we see ourselves as a separate self. We always see our differences. Absolutely. Let's have a look here. Luna. Yeah, you know, people are worried. I really believe it. Like, we're all a bit concerned about this, right? Connect communities. Let's connect. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it. You know, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Luna. I don't think I have any beliefs. Oh, Carly, I promise you do. If you're human, I mean, you know, here I am preaching again. You know, I'm telling you, you do. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Who am I to say what you have? You know what you have. See how quickly I fell into being a know-it-all? So quickly, that quick. You know, so, you know, and what if we don't? As we observe it and learn? Absolutely, right? We've got to allow ourselves to be human. And I think there's sometimes that's the charge, is that we don't allow the imperfections in others. So therefore we can't allow the imperfections in ourselves. And so we do act like jerks and we hold on to it, and then that impact continues and we end up in this cycle, right? Absolutely. 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 It's all competition. Hello, Mama Rosa. Thanks for tuning in. When something doesn't gel or feels like nails down a blackboard in a conversation, rather than shut it down, perfect. You know, perspective is the most beautiful thing. Asking for more information. Absolutely. And like, you know, you guys are the ones on this live, right? You're the ones here that are engaging in this conversation. So that means that there's this opportunity that you guys are going to be in conversations, and you're going to be able to be this person for people, able to look behind it, be curious, right? Now, the next thing is this expectation that someone else is going to do it too. And that's just not the case. I think that little by little, you're going to have moments where you are able to move through these conversations and get curious and feel your own, trigger and own pissed offedness. It's not really a word, but you know what I mean. And you feel it, and then you want to react, but you don't. And so you have this moment where you get curious, and then something different gets created. And then more and more of those moments happen, and more of that starts to show up. And then eventually, maybe it does make some changes, but it will be happening slowly. And then more and more people will do it. And then eventually it's going to get some momentum, but it is going to take consistency. And I think and persistency. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls, and I've seen this and I've done this myself too, is when you try so hard and you are the person that always gives and provides compassion. And you do it over and over and over and over. And you give up the right to be right, like Chloe said. And you do that over and over, and you don't see any results. And one day you just go, fuck it, I'm not doing it anymore. And then you go back, to just being like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I've had enough. And you just watch that little bit of light get dimmed in someone. And I've seen myself do it as well. And I'm like, how, I totally get it. Like, I totally get it. I've seen myself get dimmed by that. I've seen others and friends get dimmed by that, particularly people that are just so giving and generous and out there doing everything that they can. I guess that's probably more a question, how do you come back from that moment where you just go, screw it, I've had enough. I'm just going to be a bitch again because everyone else is doing it, How do you come back from that? Because that's another space I think we go. It is, isn't it, Mama Rosa? Here's an eye-opening, curious, fun, and incredible rabbit hole. The wonders of being human. I find that far more interesting than any other rabbit hole. I really do. And I can also, I'll just share this, and I will share this with you as well, is I remember getting really disenfranchised about the state of humanity, right? But then at the same time recognizing that what I was being disenfranchised about was also behavior that I had lived in and for years. And at some point, I made a choice that I was only going to be around people that could meet me in my compassion. So this didn't mean that I was not going to be loving and compassionate to anyone, for everyone. I was still going to give it to everyone. Like, there's not a person on the planet I wouldn't give that to. I gave up the right to have any comparison about who deserved it and who didn't. Everyone deserves it. But I chose that I would never spend deliberate time with people like my friends, that I would only be around people and choose to be in business relationships with, including my business. I do not have anyone in my business that does not meet me here, which is why my business is humanity-led business. And I run, a social media school that teaches humanity-led ideas to get traction in the world. So all my clients meet me there and all my friends meet me there. And that's when my life became pretty amazing. So as much as I have all of the everything for everyone, if people cannot meet me there, then I don't choose them in my life. That's when I went away from getting really disheartened and disenfranchised and giving up. And I got to still be the person that I love to be. So I'd be curious what you guys, whether that resonates with you or what you guys think about that. What time we got? We've got a couple more minutes. Scotty Mac, the first referred me to another leader, sent an email. I've also sent a message to another leader, shitting myself, waiting for a response. Did I miss something? What did I miss, Lena? I'm curious. Okay. How do you fix your imperfections if no one tells you about them? I would love people to be honest with me so I can be aware of things I can work on, like that Joy woman. Exactly right. I think this is you know, this is also a really good point, is that we so tiptoe around this stuff. I don't know that I could have heard it though, Carly, if she wasn't so loving and compassionate. I'm pretty sure everyone had told me I was a bit of a bitch, if not pretty clearly, just by the way they were acting towards me. But I wouldn't listen. It was the way that she did it and the way that she said it that I actually heard it for the first time. You know, so I'm a big fan of like, you're looking at results. I always come from results now because I'm a performance coach, right? And so it's like you want to know if you've got things that aren't working in your life, or you want to know what your imperfections are. You really just measure it by going, what do I really want in life and where am I? And if there's something you really want in life and you're not getting it, you can pretty much guarantee that there's something in the way there in terms of you with yourself or others, or something where you lack compassion for yourself and others that you need to clear out, work out, get to the source of. And then you're able to develop the capacity to get those results quite quickly once you work that out. So you've got to go do the work. You've got to get yourself a coach. You've got to go get a healer. You've got to, like, whatever you resonate with. You don't resonate with healers, there's heaps of courses out there. If you want to know what they are, you know, DM me. I've done them all. I go and immerse myself in everyone. Anyone's got a course, I go and check it out. You know, that's what I do. It does. You know, it does. You lose faith sometimes. Absolutely. Vulnerability is brave. Brave is often terrifying. It sure is. I'm coming back from energy fatigue at the moment, so I would suggest for anyone overgiving to address those martyr overgiving service aspects. Absolutely. Yeah. If you burn out from them anyway, if you don't recognize them early on. We should live like moths. They've got this shit down. They go to light, man. The light. Love it, Scotty. Love it. So just to end on this conversation, what a beautiful conversation to have. You know, we all have the nasty, the dark. You know, what Trump and Biden is reflecting in society is we are reflecting in our friendship circles and our families. And I think what we came to here is like, well, what can we do to bring compassion? And it is to sort of stop, feel the trigger, feel what's there, move through it, communicate that it's there, get curious with another person, and really have the courage to only choose to be around people that nourish your soul. That doesn't mean that you can't be the nourishment to someone else, even if they can't be it to you. You can provide it to all people. And I thoroughly believe that. So thank you. Oh, thank you, Chanel, for jumping on and having this conversation. What a beautiful conversation to have tonight. And particularly, you know, after the things that have happened with Trump and Biden and everything, I really, you know, I just encourage you to just jump in and still give yourself fully and give your compassion and give your love, even when it is hard to. You know, you will love yourself more for it. I always say that. I love who I am when I am that way. It's not always for others. So, yeah. You're so welcome, guys. Thank you, Luna. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Scotty. To my weekend. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Scotty, for jumping on. And anyone else that is on that I haven't acknowledged. Carly, thanks for engaging in this. Luna, Mama Rosa. Who else haven't I said thank you to? You're so welcome. Yeah, absolutely. You rock. So do you. Thank you. And until next week, you're welcome, Tristan. Thank you for jumping on. I can't see who that Facebook user is. I make up who people are. I think it's Michelle. Am I right? I've just made that up. It could be. It couldn't be. I don't know. Thank you, Christy. And thank you, Jane. Until next week and Curious, and then tomorrow night we've got Evolution Solutions back with Tom. Can't wait to speak to him. But yeah, and also anyone who is in Brisbane, on the 14th of December, Human Business 1.0. So we're getting together all people who are involved in human business, these discussions, businesses that are humanity-led on the 14th of December. Would love you to come. I will put a link in here if you are in Brisbane. We'll be possibly doing one in Sydney in February as well. So if you are interested, please do let me know, because I'd love you to come and, us all to get together and talk about this stuff more openly and in person. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. I'll talk to you later.